Hello again. This is Austin Burns, your favorite advice-giving tenor who also plays the classical guitar. And today I'm here with a new video about why I unfollowed Vanessa Lau and other entrepreneurs. The main reason I decided to unfollow these people is because they are selling a different product. So what I mean by that, they're not musicians. They don't account for artistic goals. Everything is boiled down to a monetary value, and success is defined specifically as a six-figure salary. Why this is bad? It does terrible things to your self-esteem. Their goal is to make money through paid coachings rather than by creating a product. And the irony is that the people they are coaching actually have a product to sell. Your goal as an independent artist is probably to make money to fund your future projects and to travel and tour. Don't compare yourself to them, because it's much easier to grow a business based on coaching than it is to make a business based on your individual art. Why? Because we're all trying to market ourselves. We're not all looking for the next Andrea Bocelli. Their insane growth from 0 to 100,000 followers and 0 to over 1 million subscribers is based on a completely different algorithm, completely different search results than your cover of a Taylor Swift song. They know how to create eye-catching titles, and that's great, and we should learn from that as far as marketing. But it doesn't mean that we should feel bad about ourselves for not having that same kind of growth, because we're in a completely different market. Fast growth is not the goal. The goal is to create a sustainable network of fans that support your art. Here's just one example of the destructive thought process of comparing myself to Vanessa Lau. When you're looking at someone who is filming a single video where they're just talking, they're not having to sync any kind of audio, they're not having to play multiple instruments, they're not having to deal with recordings on GarageBand and syncing that with the video, then you're comparing apples and oranges. If this person says, oh, well, I make 5 videos a week or 3 videos a week, but all they have to do is just film themselves talking into a camera, then there's no way that you're going to do the same amount of product if your product is completely different. Here's how I define success as a musician. No 9-to-5 non-music job. You can support yourself full-time through your music. You have an abundance of gigs, you have freedom of time, you have freedom to travel and or tour, and you're able to record an album. Here's what it should not be defined as: having a 6-figure salary, 2 or more videos per week, and working all the time. What have I found that's a better use of my time? Listening to audiobooks, especially those through the library app Libby. I want to suggest 3 wonderful books that I found while looking at Libby. The first is called The Art of Asking by Amanda Palmer. If you're not familiar with her work, she is an independent artist who at one time raised the most amount of money on Patreon for one of her projects. It was over $1 million that she raised, and it was through the support of around 25,000 fans. She also gave a TED Talk, which is a really good summary of what you can expect from the book, and it's also called The Art of Asking. Part of what I liked so much about Amanda Palmer's book is that she defines success in a way that a lot of musicians define it. It's being able to tour, being able to record, being able to support yourself financially, being able to crowdsource and interact with your fans in a way that a lot of musicians would be envious of. That you have a relationship with your fans, and you could even stay at their places if you're touring. The second book that I would highly recommend is called You're Never Weird on the Internet Almost by Felicia Day. Felicia Day is an independent filmmaker and actress who created the show The Guild, which was premiered on YouTube and is now available on Netflix. She's a great example of someone who was working within an industry and was successful, but decided that she didn't want to be pigeonholed into one type of part. And so she created characters that she would like to perform and wrote, directed, and starred in her own web series, giving hope to a lot of us independent artists out there. The last book, and perhaps the most important, is by Timothy Ferriss, and it's called The 4-Hour Workweek. This is the perfect book about creating efficiency in your business, no matter what it is. Whether that be batching your content, so setting a day where you're just doing one type of thing, or several hours that you're setting aside to just do one task instead of going back and forth between multiple tasks. Or whether it has to do with outsourcing some of your tasks to other people through a site like Upwork. There are so many pieces of advice, and this book is really invaluable. I recently started implementing these two strategies that I just mentioned. The first being batching content. So that means answering all my emails at one time or two times during the day. The second being outsourcing tasks that you don't really have time to do or that you don't enjoy doing to someone else. A lot of tasks can be done online with a virtual assistant through a site like Upwork. I just tried this out when I was working on my tour. I wanted to create 3 large Google Sheets of all the places that I was going to go to on my tour. And I wanted a Google Sheet for the retirement communities, the historic houses, and the libraries. On all of those, I wanted the name, the address, the contact information, and the phone number. I started this Google Doc, had all the locations, and I left pretty much everything else blank, and I had somebody fill it in. They did it within 2 days. It cost me $60, and it would have been multiple hours of my time that I would have had to waste. And honestly, for me, $60 was what I charged one of my voice students for an hour lesson. So giving up an hour lesson to have all that time back is a huge advantage. And now I can get started right away contacting those locations instead of having to look up all their information. I hope that if you're a musician watching this video, that it gave you some advice on what to do next, what books to look into, to read, and to listen to. Please don't make the mistake that I did of allowing myself to be pressured by other people online outside of my industry to do things that weren't good for me. You have to find your own path, and it's very important to seek advice from people that do what you do, or that do something similar that's in a related industry. To go back to the 4-hour work week, life should not be defined by your work, but rather defined by what you want to do with your time. Thanks again, and be sure to check out my Patreon if you're interested in supporting this channel. Have a great day.
Hi, baby. You scared of it? I'm sorry, baby. It's okay. This is mommy. This is mommy and Bushy.
It's the vampire.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Baby girl.